Have you ever wondered why humans love drama so much? I ponder to myself many times why I'm subservient to drama like an addict is to cocainium. Matter of fact, one of my favorite Netflix shows is the Spanish series named Elite, full of drugs, partying, interpersonal drama, arguments, love. It's quite melodramatic. As a self-diagnosed gamer autist, I just can't fathom why I find such compelling interest in an NPC show catered for normies, but my best guess? Conflict. Conflict creates two opposing sides, and in most cases you're gonna have an opinion on the conflict at hand, and once you do, you're gonna stray to either side, and the opposing side is then going to be your enemy, the person you are at war with. This tension evokes powerful emotions and hormones within us as human beings, and I guess that's why I enjoyed the Nightblue3-LS drama. Not because of the consequences of it, you know, death threats and stuff like that, but because of conflict. The Nightblue3-LS drama is one of the most everlasting criticisms people have against LS. The drama is also, in my opinion, a very petty drama in nature. However, the consequences or the result of the drama branded Nightblue3 as a victor, being cleared of all guilt, while LS, who participated in the drama to criticize Nightblue3 initially, was branded the one in the wrong. LS would state that he got hate and death threats, and other fans of LS would also state on social media that they turned around as fans because he was so incredibly wrong in this drama. But that's also the weirdest part of this drama, which is why we're doing an investigative hit piece on it. Because you see, most of the arguments that are in favor of Nightblue3 and those against LS are invalid. And they don't really make sense when you take a look at the evidence that's actually out there. And what's even more weird is that the evidence actually comes directly from Nightblue3 himself, which kinda disproves himself, to say it like that. So let's have a last look at the Nightblue3-LS drama and solve it once and for all. I can't fucking see shit in this glass, to be honest. And at the end, there's a super big twist to the story, so stay tuned for that. Oh, and before we continue, I also want to preface this video that I actually did talk to LS and have a look at his side of things, but I tried to reach out to Nightblue3 and, well, it's kinda hard to talk to him and I have zero fucking internet clout, so there is no way to reach that guy. Consider supporting my content by buying a league account to try out new champions, specific skins, or generally have a secondary account for ranked. Link is in the description with a 20% off discount code, and they have over 22,000 trusted customers with lifetime warranty on their standard products and up. Setting a chronological time of events is necessary for newcomers and old-timers alike. Interestingly enough, in one of the response videos that Nightblue3 posted, he said that he was going to show things in chronological order.
So before I share my thoughts on what he had tweeted there, I think it's proper we do this chronologically and go back to how this began and all of what actually had happened, and then I will share with you my final thoughts on the matter.
But yet he failed to do that. We'll get more into that later when we take a look at his response video. So initially, Nightblue3 and Florence had played a game together. This game started off pretty bad initially, with Katarina already being obnoxious and flaming Nightblue3 in the in-game chat. Florence also was obnoxious in the game chat and also sent some jabs towards Nightblue3. But most of her talks were more of passive aggressiveness and criticisms rather than the flaming nature that Katarina did. Later on, Nightblue3 would proceed to mute the Katarina because she was just being too obnoxious with her flame. And to be fair, he did show he has the ability to mute people with the scoreboard. The Sona, who is Florence, also proceeded to type a bit more because she wasn't muted. Later on, Nightblue would type the word war in the chat to mute himself from all communication. You see, there is a filter thing in League of Legends, and when you type certain words you will get muted, and this mute message comes to everyone and it's sent to everyone in your team. So if you wrote midget or if you wrote war, your teammates would know that you wrote something and you were getting system muted. While this game was going on, Nightblue flamed Florence in front of the stream to around 5,000 viewers.
Wait, is Sona telling me am I blind? I'm sorry, do you have level 6? Can you ulti the guy? CC him so I kill him? Or do you think he'll just magically stop moving when I'm there? I need Sona to hit level 6. And Sona not having level 6 at 10 minutes in, we're in trouble. Maybe I'll just sit here, actually. They're so funny, man. They're so funny. My Volibear is half the CS of Jack. My Sona's still not level 6. It's alright, our Sona is almost level 6, guys. She's getting there. It's only 12 minutes in and she's still level 5. It's okay. It's fine that their Nami's level 7 and killing me. I have so many different words I could call this Sona, but I feel like it just would be low class. You know what I'm saying? Is there any point in typing to this Sona? I could say so many things, dude. So many. And here at 1920, this is when I type whore in the chat.
Florence would then go onto Twitter and call out Nightblue3 for flaming her on stream, not in game, on stream in front of those said viewers. Somehow Nightblue actually responded to this seemingly random person who was calling him out, as he was not tagged or he was not mentioned in the original tweet. It was just his name that was written. With the response, Nightblue3 fans would engage with the tweet, and LS found this to be unfair when he saw the tweet, as the discussion was kinda mainly one-sided with Nightblue3 initially responding. So LS interacted with the tweet to gain more attention to it, and then another side looking at the facts that weren't Nightblue3 fans. And eventually you would have personalities like Scrubnoob who would react to it and call out Nightblue3. So Twitter would continue with a few heated exchanges, with LS continuing to criticize Nightblue after he quote-unquote defended himself. Nightblue felt like he got an unfair amount of hate and decided to create a video with all the receipts attached, as he could clear his name. Nightblue also responded to LS's retweet, or repost, whatever you want to call it, which is something he wrote while he was flaming LS on stream. LS then once again responded to him. More content creators would eventually get involved in this drama, such as Professor Akali and Hashinshin, unironically bringing more fire to the flame and go against LS. Nightblue would then post his 28-minute video titled Drama Response, this supposedly refuting all claims being made. Watching the video and, analyzing the dramas on a surface level and taking everything he says for granted, you would sway towards Nightblue3. This is what mostly happened to people, and the people who were actually invested in the drama would mostly sway to Nightblue3's side. You would even have content creators like Red Mercy, Raisko, and Happy Chime Noises commenting on this, and that LS as a result got a lot of criticism, and some extreme hate such as death threats on his Instagram most notably. And yeah, that's basically the timeline of events as it occurred on a surface level. It portrays LS as this kind of person who just randomly inserts himself in the drama, rides the Nightblue3 hate train, and then gets quote-unquote debunked. And then, just a fucking reverse card slapped on his fucking face. So, let's examine what I call documents. Okay, so we have some documents and we will see whether Nightblue said the W word intentionally or not, and whether LS deserved the criticism he got. To Nightblue's defense, the match starts off pretty terrible, with Katarina being toxic and obnoxious, and Florence also being obnoxious, and it's just a terrible situation to deal with in the first place. But how Nightblue dealt with the situation, it showed some inconsistencies. He demonstrated that he had the ability to mute the Katarina by muting her pings, chat, and emotes. But when it came to the Sona specifically, he used the W word, although it was just her typing. But this also doesn't make sense, as the W word was used randomly at the 1920 mark with no one typing for 2 straight minutes. You're just randomly saying a slur while nothing is happening, which is not a functional usage of the word or the self-mute system. The Katarina mute happened at the 0911 mark. You also have to note that Nightblue3 also flamed the Sona back on stream, which is something the Sona actually mentioned on her initial tweet calling out Nightblue3, not in-game, on stream. What's important to note here is that he functionally mutes Katarina while she is flaming him. However, at the 1920 mark, there was not a single chat message ongoing. From a neutral perspective, he just randomly types the word, albeit nothing being written in the chat for over 2 minutes, and there's no one pinging him either. What's also very weird here is that Florence, in her initial tweet, mentioned how Nightblue flamed him on stream in front of 7,000 viewers. That is the initial criticism that Florence gave to Nightblue3, and just keep this as a mental note, as this will be more important later. Post-game, Nightblue went hard on Sona, but not on the Katarina, which was actually flaming him, while the Sona was rather critiquing Nightblue obnoxiously, if I can say that.
You're a degenerate that should be gunned down in the street or something. Wait, if I said that, I'd be ending up on a Reddit thread tomorrow, dude. Hey, really good job, Florence. Really good job. Well done, bro.
So he was specifically targeting the Sona at that point. What's also worth taking into consideration is that Nightblue said, "Well done, bro," which he claims vindicates him from knowing of Florence or her gender. But the reality is that it doesn't. Calling girls bros, however controversial it may be, is still a common occurrence. Self-reporting that I'm doing it myself. This phenomena or word usage of bros for girls is just coined in the term bro itself. You know, the true meaning, which is a close friend, which again is what Nightblue3 sarcastically means in his sentence. It's also notable to include that LS agreed that Nightblue's interactions with Florence and Katarina was tame, and it's just not something you should criticize Nightblue for. You know, this happens in League games all over. Now, after the game, Florence made a tweet about this incident. What's very important to note here is that she didn't tag Nightblue3, nor did she mention Nightblue3, you know, with the @sign. If you look closely, she just writes the name Nightblue, and as such, there's no way for Nightblue to be notified by Florence. However, it seems like C9 Emilia mentioned Nightblue3 for this tweet at 02:33 Central European Time Zone, while Nightblue responded at 03:21 Central European Time Zone. However, this doesn't really prove or disprove whether Nightblue knew that Florence exists, much less whether he knew her gender or not. It just explains how he arrived at the tweet. And if there was no explanation for how he arrived at the tweet, there would be more valid arguments here. So Nightblue arrived at the tweet, but the response he made was extremely weird. He writes ? Indicating confusion, and continues with "I will leave it here." The way this comes off is that he isn't denying what Florence said, but rather just insinuating that you deserved it. I mean, the first thing that people do that when you are accused of something serious or something that you never intended to do is to outright deny it, say no. This behavior is well researched within human psychology, and especially with analyzing criminal behavior in interrogation tapes. The pictures Nightblue attached were screenshots of the VOD stream Nightblue had, showing that Sona is flaming or critiquing Nightblue obnoxiously. In the conversation I had with LS, I Will Dominate apparently noticed that Nightblue tends to disable or unpublish VODs in games he does really toxic stuff, but the other ones are uploaded. Florence, C9 Emilia, and other users pointed out this weird response by asking him why he called her a W word. So the way that the response came off was that she deserved it. Now, what happened next was even more suspicious. Nightblue also privated his VOD, which was initially available. Florence actually tried to go back to the VOD to retrieve what Nightblue actually said during the game, but obviously she couldn't due to not having access. Coincidentally, the clips from Nightblue were also later deleted, which hindered any evidence gathering. This actually makes sense as one has the option to do that on Twitch, namely to delete all clips from a certain broadcast video. Here's the specific function if you are curious. LS would get involved with the drama, that much is already known. The tweet getting attention though was initially instigated by C9 Emilia. As it came up on LS's feed, he involved himself in the drama. LS explains 3 reasons for doing so. He thought that Nightblue3's behavior has a consistent pattern of bullying, which I will explain later. LS thought that the criticism Florence got was one-sided, and the last one is, well, it's fucking Twitter, okay? It's a fucking public platform. 2 words. Quote tweeting, replying, liking is whatever, and voicing his opinion on the matter is his God-given right by the United States Constitution. Initially, LS quote tweeted this. She didn't even say anything bad, "You're ill." She's saying you're AFK for not paying attention to the game while clearing, and you turn around and call her a whore. You continue to just be one of the most perplexing pieces of shit that ever was birthed from the LoL community. Nightblue3 then started flaming LS on stream. Here's one of the clips we actually have recovered from that broadcast.
And I told him to shut the fuck up, clown, because I was already made aware that he is flaming me on stream and talking about me.
Me too, baby! Oh shit, is Elise back? Yeah, tell him, Kaisa, tell him. Wait, Kaisa, be careful! LS will call you mentally ill on Twitter now. Shit! Dude, honestly, It's actually funny. I can't stop laughing about it actually.
And it was recovered by an LS viewer. The story goes is that he had the clip in his browser playing while all the clips were being deleted, but with that clip still playing, he downloaded it and then sent it to LS. While flaming, Nightblue wrote this to LS trying to defuse the situation, which is just being incredibly insincere, stating, "Please don't call me mentally ill. That's not very daijubu desu ka?" LS was informed of the situation by his community and as such wrote his "shut the fuck up clown" tweet as a response to his insincereness. Also, please note that LS does say ill here, not mentally ill, which, well, yeah, there is actually a difference to this, you know, like you have fucking cancer and you are retarded, I guess. But I suppose the intention is still the same, to insult or exclaim. The only reason why I'm bringing up all drama that is seemingly irrelevant is to give context to a point. Actually, 2 points. The first point is that LS and Nightblue had beef in the past. As such, they perceive each other not so good, and thus we have bias, of course, coming into the picture. And without going too in depth, the result of this beef is that LS thinks that Nightblue is a dishonest snake, and Nightblue thinks that LS is an asshole. I think that fairly sums up their positions in a nutshell. Secondly, I Will Dominate established quite well the character of Nightblue in one of his episodes of Cut the Western Bullshit. Dom made quite a few points relevant to this drama that attacks the credibility of Nightblue and how we can't take the VOD not being published to the public for transparency for granted. I invite you to watch the video for yourself, but the most important part about what Dom has to say is how Nightblue treats his VODs. Let's have a look.
Nightblue, I found it pretty ironic that you decided to call me two-faced on stream, because you are by far one of the most fake motherfuckers on Twitch. I mean, I don't even know who you are anymore. Are you this fun-loving guy who never gets mad, never uses profanity, utters these wacky phrases, and does all these kooky and crazy builds? Or are you the guy that is hypercritical of everyone and constantly blocks and flames people on Twitter? You see, what I'm proposing to you, Nightblue, is that you're not just your average League of Legends streamer. You're actually a character streamer. But the character that you pick to stream as actually has a polar opposite personality to your natural one. I believe that you're so far gone, Rabia, that you are lost inside this character. Actually, I'm not going to be talking about any of these things. All these topics are too well documented, and I really just want to talk about the exact person that Nightblue is. Instead, I'll be discussing and disproving your accusations that Weekend, a challenger Camille main and small-time streamer, was win trading in your games on November 2nd. Wait a sec. What happened to your VODs from November 2nd? I thought you described yourself as an open book. I mean, you just told us you had nothing to hide. Well, I guess what you mean is you have nothing to hide besides for the shit that you've already hidden. Well, shit, man, I don't know what to do. I mean, how can I possibly prove Nightblue wrong when he deleted the VOD in question? Hold up. Nightblue is actually just extremely predictable. I knew he would try to delete this VOD because he does that every single time he tries to pull some shit like this. That's why, Nightblue, on November 2nd, after you were done streaming, I made a point to immediately download this VOD before you had the chance to delete it.
Funnily enough, this episode was eventually copyright striked by Nightblue, which is something he is known for. You know, the fact that he copyright strikes videos that make him look bad, even if they are fair use. In another instance, he would get major backlash in 2019 and even suspended from League for making bogus reports. The article reports that Nightblue reported a teammate Nubrak, the Teemo player, to a private Riot Discord server for members of the League Partner Program. The twist here is that Nightblue and Nubrak both got banned, Nightblue specifically for using his influence to get another player suspended. After the Twitter criticisms, or as Nice calls it, Twitter-sisms. I don't know why I'm stuck on that. Dude, Nice, I fucking love you for inventing that word. After the Twitter-sisms, Nightblue decided to make a YouTube video since his audience is bigger there and he doesn't have much of a voice on Twitter. This didn't seem to make sense at all, and people were also weirded out by this, rightly so. I mean, at the time, he had 277k followers, which is pretty much the same level at LS at that point. So in this response response video, he would go on to explain the VOD situation. He also brings up the VOD here, which he has available. Sadly, this VOD would not be available to anyone else. There's many issues with the response video that we'll go in depth with. The two main points are inconsistency and reframing. Essentially, Nightblue reframes events in such a way that it fits his narrative by leaving out important context. And he is inconsistent by, for example, stating in the start of the video that he'll go through everything in chronological order, despite not doing so. And this has some effects. So let's start with the chronological statement. Initially, he starts the video saying that he will go through the drama in a chronological order.
So before I share my thoughts on what he had tweeted there, I think it's proper we do this chronologically and go back to how this began and all of what actually had happened, and then I will share with you my final thoughts on the matter. So this all began from this person's tweet right here, who I've never met before. Her name is Florence. And
however, he recaps or starts the drama with Florence's initial tweets rather than the game, and then brings up screenshots of being criticized by Florence. This paints Florence obviously in a bad light, without explaining why Florence lashed out on Nightblue in the first place. He then goes through the VOD of the match, and after that he talks about the whole Twitter conundrum and criticizes LS towards the end, bringing in an out of context clip. This is all kind of over the place rather than, you know, going over everything he said in a chronological order. Now, you might argue that this is not important, and it's whatever, but reframing events is a more serious thing. And especially with this VOD thing, which I have a big problem with. The way he presents the VOD doesn't really dissolve him of anything, unless it's fully published because of reframing. Nightblue can specifically show certain instances and omit very important details about the VOD. And well, the question is, of course, can we trust him to show everything that is relevant? No, because he has already proven himself to be a non-credible actor, and well, he's naturally biased on the topic at hand because the topic is literally about him. Nightblue proved himself to be a non-credible actor by omitting important information regarding this segment where he criticizes LS for using the word mentally ill, which is not what he said, by the way. He said ill, pointing out that LS is a hypocrite since he's joking about being mentally ill, although LS said ill, so he wasn't joking about mental issues.
people are so quick to applaud him for really bad stuff that he's doing. Like, he says, I'm mentally ill in this tweet. And I tell him, hey, that's not right. And I'm kind of like trying to play it off as cool. Like, oh, it's not Daijobu, you know? Just came back from Tokyo. Wait, Kaisa, be careful. LS will call you mentally ill on Twitter now.
However, you know, this segment, there were 0 mentions of Nightblue flaming LS on stream. Also, this claim that the word usage of saying mentally ill or ill is equally bad, I will address later in claim number 2 chapter. But since Nightblue is shown to omit facts and not present the situation as it is, how can we then trust him? Especially when he can specifically show what he wants or what he deems to be relevant. Now, just outright publishing the VOD could have cleared him of everything. It would be a minor thing to do, and if laziness is the problem, why just not have one of your editors do it? So another problem with the reframing of the VOD is the massive amount of time jumps that Nightblue3 has. And I'm talking about in-game here. Rather than us being shown and known everything, we are just shown specific, hand-picked points by Nightblue. Specifically, this is what Nightblue3 shows us. At the 45 to 55 seconds timestamp, he just for no reason shows us that he's the best ringer in the world. I mean, it's such a weird thing to include here. And if this is a non-significant event, why wasn't all the other non-significant events shown? Then he skips to 0344 to 0401, where Katarina is complaining about Nightblue being too passive and full clearing and instigating. At 0426 to 0444, he shows us clearing this Grom camp, saying he's clearing as fast as he can. At 0753 to 0849, he shows a clip of him dying and being frustrated with some more toxicity by Katarina. They go back and forth for a bit. At 0851 to 1225, he shows us how Sona is critiquing and spam pinging Nightblue3. Nightblue mutes Katarina. He also mentions how he got confused when Florence called him out for flaming on Twitter, and he felt like that part was important to include.
Sona really hasn't done much but spam ping here, and then this is where she says, are you blind? And I get really confused by her tweet that she said I was flaming
Definitely
her
gotta
all
be
game.
that
So
clown.
just to kind of give you context, I felt that that gameplay part was important.
He also shows us some more deaths and how Sona isn't level 6, although the enemy support is basically the same level as her. At 1442 and 1502, Florence suggests passive-aggressively that they should go next. 1515 to 1525, he exclaims about wanting to FF. 1629 to 1642, he dies to Jax. 1736 to 1828, Sona criticizes Graves more. Nightblue goes on a rant, saying he could call Sona so many things, however no more conversations with Sona would occur then. 1920 to 1936, the W incident occurs, although no one has typed for 2 minutes, that is so clear in the chat. 1936 to 2036, he shows us that he's not talking much more, other than asking what Donkey said to the Malphite player.
You guys are degenerate. What did Donkey say to get banned? You guys remember what Donkey said to get banned?
It was at this time that I called this Malphite a fucking worthless, brain-dead scum fuck.
Probably this is what he wanted to say to Florence. And then we also have the post-game discussion shown for a bit, where Nightblue specifically targets the Sona and doesn't mention the Katarina at all, although she was arguably worse in the game than Sona. Doing some mathematical calculations, we will find out that 12.5 minutes of the game is unaccounted for, which is also excluding the joining the lobby part, which is where he could acknowledge, for example, that Florence was a player in this game, and you know, however long Nightblue3 references or talks about the game post-lobby. And you know, up until 1736 and hereafter, Nightblue goes on to a rant that is also fully unaccounted for. Publishing the VOD would of course showcase us what was said or not said in those minutes leading up to the W incident, and Nightblue presents the events as he thinks they are. And the issue here is that the only one we can believe is Nightblue, which is obviously a biased actor in this case. Now, Malphite, Donkey reference included, would probably say, stuck between a rock and a hard place. What the fuck am I doing with my life, man? This is just so fucking dumb. LS naturally saw this response video and noted inconsistencies on it. LS decided to respond to this video since he got a lot of DMs on Instagram and Twitter asking him to game end himself. But when people decided to harass his partner, that is actually when he decided to respond, because things were getting too far at that point, I guess. The problem here is that LS's main points were distributed around a 1-hour VOD, which is kinda hard to decipher, but giving him the benefit of doubt and analyzing what he says, and then also condensing it down, his points does actually make sense. So, what are the points? Now, your boy watched the 1-hour video and I have a less condensed all down here for you, so let's get into it. Nightblue3 is inconsistent and dishonest because of a few number of things. Nightblue3 mentioned he wakes up by getting suplexed on Twitter, but he doesn't wake up to anything as he was streaming while engaging with LS and deleted tweets, which is correct by LS to be fair. Nightblue portrays himself in the video that this drama or this response by LS was kinda like came out of the blue, but he was actually engaging with it and the drama was already ongoing. I remember that he initially responded to Florence and he also got suplexed, I guess, at that point. And then later on, LS actually quote retweeted him and then he was getting suplexed another time. I don't know, it just seems a bit insincere, I guess. The events presented in Nightblue3's video are incoherent and not presented in a chronological order despite him saying he will do so. The way Nightblue3 responds to Florence is weird. Rather than outright denying it, he leaves screenshots indicating that she deserved it. LS says that Nightblue3's clips were deleted by himself, saying that's suspicious. He also mentions that Florence tried to look for clips but couldn't find any and later said that the clips were deleted. LS agrees that the interactions Nightblue3 had with Katarina and Sona were extremely tame. Nothing done was bannable, only typing the W word thing was. LS notes that Nightblue3 has the ability to mute someone since he muted Katarina rather than typing the W word at that point. LS notes that Florence's tweet initially called Nightblue out for flaming him on stream and not in game, which is also true, to be fair. Now, onto the other points. LS criticizes the large difference between the in-game timers. Suspiciously, there was a large game of time frame omitted between the rant Nightblue had and him randomly saying the W word. Moreover, LS also criticized his body language during his rants and when Nightblue said the magic word. I mean, he literally smiles.
And here at 1920, this is when I type whore in the chat, and this is where all the confusion started. No one's typed anything for 2 minutes. The whole conversation with Sona is over by now. I've been getting flamed the entire...
LS argues that there is a functional usage for the clips Nightblue3 used to show that he frequently uses the W word to self-mute. And LS said that there is a non-functional usage when he uses it in the Florence game. For example, in the clips shown, Nightblue is in a heated argument with users, but in the Florence game, there is literally nothing going on, and the last thing said is 2 minutes ago, which is, you know, also a fair point. LS suspiciously noted how Nightblue targeted Sona at the post-game lobby and no attention was brought to Katarina. This also is suspiciously, mainly because Katarina was way more toxic and flaming, while Sona was rather obnoxious, passive-aggressive, and critical of it. Now, LS further clarified that the clips Nightblue provided, you know, regarding LS, at the end of the video was out of context, as LS was made aware that Nightblue were saying stuff on stream, and coming with this specific statement that I'm showing here, Nightblue was attempting to downplay the situation, which LS saw through.
Dude, Nightblue is gonna, he's, oh my god, dude. I'm on Twitter right now. I'm like, oh my god. Oh my god. What is he saying? What is Nightblue saying? He's so fucking dumb! Jesus Christ! Oh my god!
Now, another argument that LS makes is very compelling in regards to Nightblue's behavior. The argument is essentially based on LS's conversations with non-league streamers on the event, effectively, you know, a jury of peers, if you will. Before making a response video, LS talked with league streamers such as Midbeast, Kadrill, and Doublelift, and even many more others. And he also talked with non-league streamers, and the talks with the non-league streamers was mainly facilitated by Moxie, you know, the Overwatch streamer, who helped LS find streamers to discuss this with. I also was shown statements that prove that he actually did this. LS also talked to Riot staff members, who seemed to agree with him on the point that his arguments were valid and that he had the right to intervene. LS also said that a female Twitch streamer mentioned how we as streamers understand streamer body language. The first thing a content creator will ever do when accused of something serious, misogyny in this case, is to deny it. He doesn't deny it, but he pauses the VODs while live streaming, goes through the VOD and makes 4 screenshots in response to her tweet without any other words. This behavior is of course different from the norm, and most streamers, I guess 99%, would argue that this is the case, that you should deny, or you're essentially agreeing with what is being said. Also, when Nightblue smiles while flaming her while simultaneously looking at the Twitch chat, it does bring an argument showcasing that Nightblue did it intentionally, although it doesn't do it conclusively. Now, why didn't content creators that talk with LS such as Doublelift, Kadrill, and Sanchovis go out publicly and defend LS? The simple answer is that they were scared just because of the massive backlash LS got, and some of them didn't want to join the drama, understandably so. There isn't much to talk about the aftermath, except for one thing which I think is important. Beside LS being portrayed as the loser of this drama, and you know, also getting death threats and people harassing him and his partner, there was this supposed talk which was going to happen between LS and Nightblue. In the video that Nightblue had, his response video, he mentioned how he's open to talking anytime and open for any and all discussion with LS.
And if you want to have a talk one-on-one about it, I am always open to conversation. Literally message me anytime. I hope it's a two-way street, you know. I really hope that we can get past this.
This call to action was actually acted upon by LS. LS mentions that he was down to talk, but was going to respond to the public video that Nightblue put out. I mean, naturally this is a thing he should be allowed to respond to. I mean, it's public and he should respond to it publicly. Now, Nightblue was apparently sleeping while LS wrote this to him, but would eventually respond to LS in DMs. I woke up and saw you were already in the middle of a 2-hour response to my video on your Twitch channel. I thought it would be appropriate for me to listen to your response before messaging you back. I was really hoping for a quick apology from you so both of us could move on from this drama. After watching your response, I was disappointed to see you instead decided to perpetuate the drama by hyperfixating on your belief that my video was not genuine enough for you. I understand you may not like me and I am not asking you to, but you acted with such a deep-seated aversion towards me without any evidence. Again, as I stated in my video, I admit I am very sorry for any drama we had many years ago and I am trying to be better. I am not afraid to admit that I made many mistakes in the past. Regardless of the past, you created this false, malicious narrative that was completely unfounded. You published to hundreds of thousands of people on your Twitter and Twitch that I was a misogynist and even went as far as to call me mentally ill. Or was it ill? Someone bring up the chat logs. You caused severe irreparable damage to my reputation because a lot of people who support you on your platforms will never even bother to see my side of the story. Unfortunately, at this point, I believe continuing any sort of conversation with you is only going to perpetuate this drama further since you had such a strong conviction that you have done nothing wrong in your response. I don't need your apology. I just needed my own supporters to see the truth. Sorry we couldn't work it out. LS then responded with, I think watching my response is totally fair and fine before deciding to respond. I have the belief that I think there was or is an insincerity in some of the comments due to the omission of your clips and other things flaming me beyond the first tweet. Therefore, the painting of the section dedicated to me in the video is insincere. And I refer that in the tweet you make, which you claim in the video is attempting to defuse the situation, but I suggest that by the clips and other comments you were making about me on stream, it's insincere and dishonest, and thus more follow-ups things happen. I said, insinuated at multiple points that if there was to be an apology, it wouldn't be prior to talking to you directly, and I also said this in the VOD that hopefully would be able to talk. I agree with you about the publicization portion of this response, but I disagree in that people can't see the truth because obviously I'm open to responding, commenting or engaging with it, so by that own logic it's getting seen by the very same people / audiences you're saying won't see it, no? I agree with you that continuing any sort of conversations or topics on this matter publicly would just keep continuing the drama. That's why I suggest we could just talk off stream and then make a final comment to bury the issue. I agree that as large content creators we have accountability and such, and that's why my response came after many conversations with other streamers, creators and Riot Games, because I truly tried to question my own perspective on the matter based on my views of how the events unfolded. These reach outs, while done anonymously, was legitimately solely to try to get others within our sphere to play devil's advocate, as I feel like the perspective of streamers and content creators holds a lot more weight on what's happening between us than random public people who can't empathize with the position we're in. Now, it seems like Ellis was blocked by Nightblue as he can no longer message the person, although I didn't specifically ask him about that. The hatred on LS was also perpetuated by other individuals, such as Professor Akali through some Twittercism, and as well as more people who covered the event, such as Hashinshin. I'm only addressing this because some fucking goblin in the comment section will mention this, okay? Note that LS and Professor Akali are now on good terms, as they relatively recently had a conversation or a dinner where they talked out their differences and also misconceptions that they had on each other. Prior to this though, Professor Akali perceived LS to be a bad person and had instigated drama with LS regarding his gambling sponsor named esportbets GG. Now this drama is an entirely different drama that I want to get into because it's really just gonna fucking go everywhere, okay? But essentially what you need to know is that the gist of it was that LS got under fire because he had a gambling sponsor, and this sponsor unbeknownst to LS, had a solo queue betting section which got him under fire. Esports bets would later discontinue the solo queue betting as a result of backlash. Professor Akali spearheaded this criticism mainly as he sought out to cancel LS, but little did the public know that this was actually a conspiracy. I mean, quite literally. According to Ashenshin, I know, out of all persons, in a video posted in July of 2023, Professor Akali had contacted Hashenshin asking him if he could recap a video about the LS Nightblue 3 drama.
Except for that time you DM'd me several times, including years after, to try to get me to make a video on LS. 2020, then he said in 2022, Drusi Jama we got. What was he talking about? LS. LS was mean to people online.
Essentially, Professor Akali and Nightblue were working together to cancel LS, so Dr. Akali's intentions in this time period was already insincere to start with, as the agenda was to cancel LS due to past beef. He hoped basically that Hashinshi would make a video to help the cancellation process. But we won't explore this in this video mainly because it's out of scope, and Professor Akali and LS are currently on amicable terms. Nevertheless, the points Professor Akali made in those tweets are just ad hominem attacks, which doesn't really help either case or give us some more clarity on the situation. When approaching this claim, there are three kind of suspicions I have which makes me agree with it. The random typing of the word, the VOD not being available to the public for reviewing purposes, and Nightblue omitting facts in his response video. I also have to recognize that there is nothing conclusively we can assert when it comes to whether he said it intentionally or not. The only thing we can do in this case is extrapolation. Now, extrapolation is a type of estimation beyond the observational range. So imagine you have a few dots over here. There are a lot of dots, and this is your observational range, but you really want to figure out what's going on over here, and well, by extrapolation you can find out what is happening here based on what you already have here. Adding everything up, it does make a case that calls out Nightblue 3 for his inconsistencies and abnormal behavior, which may indicate that he said it on purpose. Plausible, basically, because we have to ask ourselves, why didn't Nightblue 3 outright deny the accusations that were called out by Florence and everyone else in the initial tweet? Well, maybe because he thought it was correct, but he thought that Florence did worse in the game and as such, which is why he question marked here and left 4 screenshots showing her in-game behavior. Why did Nightblue not have the VOD available or at least publish it to the public? Well, he did say that he doesn't have VODs publicly if he plays bad. However, as I Will Dominate pointed out, Nightblue does tend to remove his VODs after being toxic and behaving disgustingly. But even so, why couldn't just Nightblue publish the VOD in the interest of being, transparent and clearing all suspicions? Surely, as reasonable human beings, you and me, we can, overlook how Nightblue died in some irrelevant game that is not pertaining to the matter. Well, maybe didn't publish the VOD because there was some evidence that could have hurt his side. I mean, 12.5 minutes or 36% of the match unaccounted for is ample enough time to say things that would indicate that he knew of Florence. Why didn't Nightblue not include all the context and omitted facts to the drama, albeit saying that he was originally going to present everything chronologically? Well, here it does seem that he has an obvious agenda. By omitting the contextual circumstances of why Ellis said what he said in the first place, namely Nightblue flaming Ellis on stream initially, Nightblue could portray LS in a really bad light in his video, which he did. The out of context clips already made an impact, which you can see in the comment section of the video. We also have the omittance of the 12.5 unaccounted minutes, and also how Florence was portrayed to be a shitty person who seemingly deserved it. Now, Florence already kind of was a shitty person at that point. I mean, there's a lot of tweets that she made, which, it basically speaks for itself, right? But it doesn't really help to show that she's a shitty person and attacking her as a person when you really want to address the claim that you're not misogynistic. It's about denying a serious claim. And then later towards the end of the video you can add whatever the fuck she did in the aftermath. Now I won't also defend Florence because her actions does speak for themselves, really. But this reframing is not something I would personally take for granted when dealing with a serious accusation. Now these 3 points I have a main issue with when it comes to Nightblue, and it makes it extremely suspicious as to why he didn't do it. His explanations for doing so didn't really help either. You also have other points that adds up to the question of whether he said it intentionally or not, such as randomly typing the word to self-mute when it had no functional use. Again, there was 2 minutes of no typing whatsoever, but with the examples he showcased, his teammates were actually typing and pinging. They were basically arguing like it was a war cabinet or something. The body language that Nightblue had indicated that he did it on purpose by trying to elicit a response from the chat. And the initial response of Nightblue was incredibly weird. By not outright denying it, he rather sent the message of, "You Florence, you did worse, you deserved it," which seemed to be the reception of the people who first saw the drama. You also have the unfair targeting of Sona in the post-game lobby chat, which seemed unwarranted when Katarina was a much bigger nuisance, but yet she got no attention from Nightblue. At least that is what he showed us. There's also the objective fact that saying war in general is bad, because, you know, it's a misogynistic slur, especially if you say it to a girl. I mean, I can't imagine the backlash that other streamers would get if they were saying the N-word to, you know, casually self-mute themselves. However, if you call inanimate objects a war, or your jungler as a war with no knowledge or regard of the jungler's gender, it's just another word a part of your vocabulary. Now, this might be controversial, but relax, okay? You don't need to write in comments now. I'll explain this more in claim number 2, which we'll get to very close. And you also have the fact that Nightblue doubled back after being so sincere and open for a discussion. It just shows that maybe he got the outcome that he really wanted with his response video. And you might say, hey Hazmat, he might arguably not engage with a conversation with LS if he doesn't want to. Well, there is one thing to say that you're down to talk to squash the beef, but then you expect an apology after making a botched drama response video. You know, if a person disagrees with your response video, you should engage in a conversation to address the other criticism the person has. Not cry about the lack of apology and double back, which just seems a bit presumptuous, I guess. So one of Nightblue's final claims in his drama response video is that Ella said the word "you're ill" in a tweet.
Like, he says, "I'm mentally ill" in this tweet. And I tell him, hey, that's not right. And I'm kind of like trying to play it off as cool. Like, oh, it's not Daijobu, you know?
As such, he was a hypocrite for calling out Nightblue for saying the W word. While the W word is more of a misogynistic slur, it is of the lower end, I would argue. Again, I could imagine myself saying this to the enemy jungler after I game ended him in a game of League of Legends. However, there is another side to the story if you call a female a war, especially in a non-consensual, non-sexual circumstance, and that female is a stranger to you. It's like using the N-word with a joke or dark humor in private, versus you go into public and casually say to some random black person. Or you're saying you're retarded and the person is in front of you is a disabled person with learning disabilities. Now there's nothing wrong with saying retard in my eye, because the meaning behind saying the word retard is essentially just calling someone stupid, but just in a more excessive way. You're not sitting there and flaunting that you have a functional body and mind, you know? You're not being ableist, is what I'm trying to say. However, it does indicate that you're ableist with that flaunting point in mind if you say it to someone who is actually retarded. For example, you know, Dirter uses the word retard all the time, and he isn't ableist just because he calls his jungler a retard. And the same applies to LS, whether he says ill or mentally ill, because if you look at the Discord logs in his own community server and on Twitter, you can basically see that he uses it as a synonym for being stupid. Also, a quick note, in case you forgot, the whole Nightblue3 side, or the supporters, whatever you want to call it, also says that LS said mentally ill, but that was never the case. He just said you're ill. Anyways, is this a controversial opinion to have? Maybe, but if you think that LS is being a hypocrite for saying you're ill, you will have to be consistent and call everyone who uses retard ableist, everyone who uses the N-word with whatever ending as racist, and British people who smoke a cigarette a homophobe. That's a joke, by the way. Google what the British slang for a cigarette is at your own risk. I personally feel it's better to evaluate whether a person says it with malicious intent and ignorance, or do they say the words with no malicious intent behind it, for humorous reasons or etc. So to me, it feels like when Nightblue points this out and calls it hypocrisy, it just feels like he is trying to deflect hatred, because pinning down someone because they use "you're ill" as an insult feels weird and unfair, but Each to their own morals, I guess. We discussed whether Nightblue3 having his VOD unpublished by default makes sense or not earlier in this video. Mainly, it sways towards that this is probably not the case. Nightblue3 was called out by I Will Dominate earlier when he does this as a pattern of behavior to hide his toxicity and obnoxious behavior in-game or on stream. I already have shown a clip of the video which is relevant to this claim, but knowing about this contextual information, we do need to take it into account, because Nightblue firmly believes that the VOD still shouldn't be published. I mean, it never was in the end as far as I am concerned. However, publishing the VOD would vindicate him, right? In a certain serious case like this, where he is being accused of being misogynistic and using a misogynistic slur on purpose, then all evidence debunking such a claim should be brought forward and, you know, not put behind the excuse of, oh, I'm playing bad, I don't want to publish once. We don't care about you dying 10 deaths in some irrelevant game. We only care about reviewing whether there are more things within the unaccounted minutes that could prove that he said it intentionally or unintentionally. Some people criticize LS for drama farming, that he's a clout chaser, and all of these bullcrap comments. This notion mainly stems from the fact that LS is a part of many dramas, and that is true. However, Ellis has been in the League community for over 10 years now, and the very idea that you're not gonna be in any dramas during that time span is inconceivable, to say the least. Furthermore, if we actually take a look at all the dramas Ellis was a part of, we find out very easily that he's not the reason for why there is a drama in the first place. In the Nice drama, Nice first instigated by flaming Ellis on stream. The T1 drama occurred initially due to Wolf leaking it on stream, and T1 fans exacerbated the situation by doxing LS and harassing his family. The Ocelot drama was due to Ocelot not paying LS. The K-Drill drama initially occurred due to K-Drill's call out. The TF Blade incident happened as TF Blade was shit-talking LS on stream. Every single drama he has been involved in, except for the Nightblue3 drama, LS was not the instigator, at least to my knowledge. And to be fair, LS had the right to involve himself in the Nightblue3 tweet. You know, it appeared on his feed and it's in a public forum like Twitter, so voicing his opinion on the matter is, you know, entirely within his human rights. It's like saying you shouldn't comment on a Twitter post because it's not about you. The difference between me and LS relies in the concreteness of what we can conclude in this scenario. LS does recognize that we do not know for certain whether Nightblue said the W word intentionally or not, and also in regards to knowing Florence's gender or not. However, he strongly believes that it is the case simply because the extrapolative evidence strongly suggested to be the case. LS takes into consideration earlier dramas Nightblue had instigated with LS, the bully behavior he showcases over time, and the analysis of streamer behavior. You know, since LS is a streamer, he sees streamer patterns more clearly than a non-streamer. I personally think that's fine to believe, because the extrapolative evidence does suggest that he did say it intentionally, and that he did know Florence's gender strongly, unless Nightblue has some insane explanation again, or, you know, willing to shut the VOD. My personal take on the situation is that I'm leaning towards Nightblue also saying it intentionally, and I just can't accept that he didn't publish the VOD fully, as it would have cleared him of all wrongdoing. That is, unless it doesn't clear him upon it being published in full. Now, there is also an unsubstantiated claim that Florence was a known high elo player at the time, and to be fair, she was in the Masters Plus community. With this claim in mind, it could also explain why Nightblue knows about Florence, but again, it's unsubstantiated, but it could be probably testified by some high elo players. You also have the pattern of behavior I Will Dominate demonstrated with Nightblue, and the fact that he didn't initially deny any misogynistic claims. Again, it's not 100% clear, dead to rights type of conclusion that he did it, but it's also not 100% conclusive that he didn't say it either. It's just, at best, it's just extremely suspicious, and I cannot think of any reasons that would protect him, considering the context and, you know, evaluating the situation. I also personally think that the outfall that Ellis received was unwarranted and extremely exaggerated, with him getting lots of death threats and as well as his partner being harassed. It just doesn't seem fair. And remember the weird plot twist I mentioned in the introduction earlier? Well, It turns out that Florence got ousted as a person who likes small Minecraft characters in-game but in real life. Whether this has any impact on the story, I have no fucking clue. All Florence did after all was to call out Nightblue by saying the W word and that he flamed her on stream. Her behavior after those tweets, they do speak for themselves. So now you have a critical look at the Nightblue3-LS drama. You know what Ellis thinks, you know what Detective Hazmat's conclusions are, and the only lacking conclusion is yours. But you'll let me know, won't you? Alright, see you in the next video, man.